My earliest memories of playing Pokemon basically involved me steamrolling through the entirety of Pokemon Gold, using only my overleveled Typhlosion, armed with Ember, Flame Wheel, Flamethrower, and Fire Blast. And over the years, I've learned the importance of having good coverage on my Pokemon. But the truth is, the first time I played Pokemon Blue, the very first game in the series, was well into the DS era of Pokemon. I think maybe after Platinum came out. Now I had experienced Kanto games long before that. Leaf Green was actually the second game that I played through, but I've never been able to experience the OG Kanto games the way children were supposed to play them. Absolutely clueless. So I thought I'd rectify the mistakes of my adolescence and regain my lost childhood by doing a Hardcore Nuzlocke in Gen 1, but only using stab moves. And though I'll be playing Pokemon Red since the primary Pokemon version seems to do better with the YouTube's algorithm. You already know what the rules of a Hardcore Nuzlocke are, but to summarize, we can't use items in battle, we can't overlevel past the next gym leader, and we'll be playing on set mode. If you don't know what stab moves are, they stand for same type attack bonus, which basically means if a fire-type Pokemon uses a fire move, it gets a 50% bonus to its attack. And now the challenge sounds all good and simple, it's even easier since we don't have to go out of our way to find TMs. But here's the thing, do you know what Pokemon like Sandslash, Exeggutor, and Rhydon have in common? They're all in the Rivals Champion team. Sure, but that wasn't the answer I was looking for. In fact, the Rivals Champion team actually hints at it. None of these Pokemon learn a single stab move via level up. TMs are single use in this game, with only a handful of them being purchasable. And that's fine, it's only a couple of Pokemon, right? Why even bother bringing it up? Well, do you know what Pokemon like Scyther, Pinsir, Butterfree, and Dragonite have in common? They don't learn a single stab move, period. Okay, 7 lines. Who cares? There's far more Pokemon. Do you know what Pokemon like Nidoqueen, Nidoking, Gengar, and Beedrill have in common? They're all poison types, and they learn stab moves. Yay! All of which have a base power of 25 or lower. I didn't even list all the Pokemon that fell under these categories. And that's not even mentioning the Pokemon that learn stab really late, or get stab moves that aren't as weak as 25 BP, but pathetic regardless. All in all, these Pokemon make up for about half the evolutionary lines in the game. Half of the Pokédex is basically useless to us. And well, the name of this challenge is Stab Moves Only. Do you know which moves don't get the same type attack bonus applied to them? Moves that deal no damage. So for this challenge, I won't be allowing myself to use a single status move, and that turns Pokemon that were basically useless into just plain useless. With all my challenges, I picked the starter with the biggest disadvantage throughout the game, and this one's a no-brainer. It's about time that Charizard gets some love. Knife only gets fire moves for the first half of the game, which both of the first 2 gym leaders resist. Fire is actually a pretty bad type in Kanto, more so in Gen 1. It's only strong against 2 boss battles in the game, Erica, the grass gym leader, notorious for being weak, and Lorelei, the ice type Elite 4 member, who mostly uses water type Pokemon. Strong against fire. Yeah, this isn't Charizard's run. Well, I say that, but because of our early encounters being absolute arse, Charmander is actually the best choice for Brock, the rock-type gym leader. I do also evolve Pin the Weedle into Beedrill, as it'll be quite useful later, and backup's always nice. Now, Brock is a gym that basically exists as a tutorial, a really good tutorial, mind you, to get kids to acknowledge the type chart. All of the starters have types that aren't neutral to rock. Grass and water are super effective, fire is weak. I'm not going to pretend like I'm the first person to spout this off, but it really is a good way to introduce new players to the system. But the thing is, once you're an adult, you realize none of this matters. Both Geodude and Onix have no rock or ground moves whatsoever, only getting normal moves, so they can only do as much to Charmander as they can to the other 2. And since both have abysmal special defense, while yes, fire is weak to rock, Ember still does more than enough damage. Geodude even spams defense curls, which doesn't really make a difference to us. I mean, look at how much we do to Onix. Now, Onix uses Bide, which deals double the amount of damage it has taken over the past 2 turns, but during this time it can't really do anything, so we can just stall out the turns so it does less damage. It does use a Screech, halving our defense, so I finished the battle with Pin, but Knife pretty much did most of the work. Type advantages are overrated. Well, sadly, none of the upcoming encounters are really worth talking about either. Draw the Spearow could be decent, it'll probably be the best flying type we'll get. I grabbed Cleaver the Magikarp, who'll basically be our best water type for half of the game, because it'll be our only water type for half of the game. Ironically, Gyarados is a pretty bad water type in the games after Red and Blue, until Generation 4 introduced the physical special split. But in these games, special defense isn't a stat yet, instead having both special attack and defense being merged into a single stat, simply being called special. This means that Gyarados, who usually has a measly attack of 60, gets an attacking stat of 100 in this game. I would have loved to get a Geodude in Mount Moon, who is such an underrated Pokemon in these games, but we get the far more common Zubat, who won't be learning a stab move until level 28, and not a good one. Well, we're already at Misty and we don't have a single Pokemon that has super effective moves for water. So what shall we do? Well, true, we don't have a super effective move for water. Psychic in Generation 1 is notorious for being hilariously overpowered, having next to no weaknesses, with there even being a bug where ghost moves are actually ineffective against Psychic. Well, turns out there is still a little type that can stand up to the tyrannical Psychics. This one not being bugged, but instead being, well, bug. Can I unsubscribe from my own channel? Unfortunately, there are only 2 bug moves in the game, and both are arse. But at least the one that Pin gets is slightly less arse. Also a slight tangent, but I love whenever people bring up the whole Psychic being immune to Ghost Bug. They never mention the fact that even if it did work properly, there's literally only one Ghost move in the entire game, Lick. And it has a base power of 20. Like the Ghost Bug isn't even the biggest problem with Psychic. The rival now has 4 Pokemon, but they're still pretty weak, and we have 4 evolved ones now. Anyway, Misty. Staryu's not a Psychic type yet, so I let Draw handle her to preserve Pin's strength. Draw actually manages to take her down with 2 Fury attacks, only getting hit once. And there he is. We're still pretty healthy, so we may as well make it a little easier for Pin. Good lord. Never a dull moment with Big Man. Draw, what have you been eating? He survives on 1 HP and then hits all 5 Fury attacks in a row. Well, we'll let him rest, but I want to save Switch. Thankfully, we have just the meat sack. Into Gummy. Goodbye, Gummy. Into Pin. We're lucky as Misty goes with a weaker water gun and a super effective Twin Needle on the second hit, brings Big Man down. That Fury attack actually prevented us needing to dodge a crit, and believe it or not, that was actually the battle I was most afraid of, at least for now. But with the first real hurdle out of the way on our first try, time to sweep half of the game. Leaving Cerulean, we have a battle against a Rocket Grunt who gives us the TM for Dig, a ground type move which in this game has a base power of 100, the same as Earthquake. And earlier, we actually caught a Nidoran, one that we can evolve into the ground type Nidoking as early as level 16. It doesn't learn any stab moves through level up, but TMs are a different story. Well, it would be a shame if the only stab move it does learn is Earthquake, one of the best TMs in the game, that we only find late into the game. And this is one of the many Pokemon that get a Gen 1 moveset, learning a whole variety of moves that they should have no business learning. Nidoking being able to brave the seas, summon thunderstorms at will, control the climate at the snap of his fingertips, and yet my ground type can't learn the most basic of ground type moves. Well, who needs Godzilla when you have a mole? Huh? Well, the rival isn't as free this time. Eradicate with Stab Hyperfang can actually be pretty scary to deal with, especially if it lowers your defense at this stage in the game. Pidgeotto is fairly bulky and has quick attack, so she's able to deal with it pretty quickly. Oh god. Well, we take Hyperfang pretty well. Kadabra 2 is a pain. It has a massive special attack for this stage in the game, and gets Stab Confusion. But with it being as frail as it is, it goes down to 2 quick attacks, while only using a failed teleport. Why does it even still have that? And Wartortle isn't nearly as scary as Big Man. It still only has Bubble. That's the rival. Not free, but not difficult either. Worst case, we could lose a Pokemon here because of bad luck. Lieutenant Surge, on the other hand, is completely free with a ground type. He only gets electric and normal moves. Ground is immune to electric, and remember, Dig is as strong as Earthquake in this game. It does take a turn to set up, but we'll dodge all attacks during this turn anyway, so it doesn't really matter against the AI. Man, Raichu can't even land the move that we're not immune to. Little Pencil manages to land the one-shot on Raichu with a super effective Dig. I'm getting deja vu. With the third badge, we have a pretty long road of encounters before the next gym. I finally landed Rattata, Master of the Elements, but with only normal moves, it's already kind of fallen off at this point in the game. Voltorb learns 0 stab moves through level up, and Electrode only has a base power of 80, which is most certainly not worth wasting our Thunderbolt TM on. And in Rock Tunnel, we can catch the Geodude that we were robbed of earlier. The Geodude line in this game is amazing. With most Pokemon using normal moves and the entire line having high defenses, this mon is almost unkillable, as long as you don't send it out against a Pokemon that's specifically built to devour it. And for our challenge in particular, it naturally learns Earthquake as early as level 31. Of course that currently exceeds the cap, but we don't want it for the next gym anyway. As I mentioned earlier, fire types are pretty bad, and Growlithe is stuck with Ember until level 50. If I evolve it early, it's stuck with Ember forever. But reaching Celadon, we get a very special static Pokemon, 100% guaranteed. And it's most certainly not Eevee. Our old pal Bernie has kicked the old gambling addiction for the 3rd time this year. Good job, Bernie. And gives us this month's coin case for the game corner. And just gathering a measly 100 coins, we can purchase ourselves the Pokemon that can bring this region to its knees. Unfortunately, it's not Big Man. He needs coverage to unlock his full potential. I didn't mention this earlier, but before challenging Misty, I actually lost an encounter. In the routes past Nugget Bridge, you have 2 chances to land the encounter Abra. The catch being, if you fail catching it in the first ball, it will teleport away the same turn. With the Great Ball, the chance of catching it is just 50%, and considering the other encounters, your odds of landing one is quite low. But the thing is, he's always a guaranteed encounter in Celadon City. 100 coins, only needing 2,000 Poké Dollars. Most people just seem to favor the inferior evolutions for pitiful reasons like they're cute. You're telling me this thing's cute? With that haircut, Abra's just a sleepy little boy, look at him. And Alakazam, look how well maintained that stash is. He's got 2 spoons, what's he gonna do with them? Share his ice cream with you, that's what. Thank you, Alakazam. You think this little shit's gonna share anything with you? Aside from a prison cell for you enabling that criminal trim? Scythe the Abra is about to become the Grim Reaper of Kanto. Abra evolves at level 16 into Kadabra, and Kadabra being a trade evo, we can evolve immediately into Alakazam, who has the base special attacking stat of 135 at level 16. In this generation, this also doubles as a special defense stat. But that's not all. Bribing the officers to gain entry into Saffron City, we can get the TM for Psychic, the strongest psychic move in the game. And we've already spoken about how busted the Psychic type is. He absolutely destroys Erica, mowing through every Team Rocket grunt, including the boss grunt. He one-shots a Kangaskhan from full health. I mean look, these battles are pretty much known for being especially pathetic in an already easy game, but this Pokemon pretty much solves 90% of trainer battles in the game. There really are literally only 2 trainers in the remaining game who even have a chance of taking a Psychic and being able to kill in return. Alakazam's time has come too soon, and he must be banished. I of course wasn't actually planning on using Alakazam, as it basically ruins any minor challenge this game actually has. Honestly, it deserves to be banned in most challenges. But it would be sad if I lost my Celadon encounter just because of a self-imposed rule. Well, luckily for us, there still is a very special Pokemon that we have access to. No. Preemptively exiling Scythe for its yet to be committed war crimes, we grab another Abra in its place, still nice and innocent and genocidaless. But instead of allowing him to grow into a dictator, we can trade him for a more trustworthy Pokemon, one rarely seen in these kinds of challenges. Maybe we should just stick to the war criminal. God, he should not be allowed anywhere near a children's game. Mr. Mime really goes to show how much Pokemon was supposed to be just a simple monster collector game, rather than a balanced RPG, as it is a very sad Pokemon, outclassed by the very Pokemon that we trade to get him. Oh, you thought I meant Alakazam? No, try Kadabra. I can't believe that you have to trade in an Abra for a much weaker Pokemon with the added trauma of having that forever listed in your Pokedex. But it is indeed a Psychic type, so Scythe Jr. can dodge the allegations for just one more day. We can get some levels in him, massacring the spirits resting in the Pokemon Tower. Of course, Mr. Mime would desecrate a burial ground. Well, I said Ghastly would be useless, and he is, but he can at least help us get a useful Pokemon. Ghastly is immune to all of Snorlax's attacks, so we can just spam all of our balls until he gets into one. We need him for a grand total of 1 battle, but before we take on any gyms, we may as well wrap up the Rocket storyline. Paper the Geodude can evolve into Graveler, and then we can evolve him into Golem by trading with my friends. Earlier I said that Drill would be our best flying type, and she did do great, but the main reason I said that was because she gets the best flying move in the game. And it turns out that Dodrio 2 learns Drill Peck, so Spear basically outclasses Pharaoh in every way. Sorry, Drill. Scythe Jr. is able to weed out the remaining Rocket Grunts, but he has a restraining order against children, so Sponge is a bit tougher. Pidgeot can't touch paper, so Rock Throw. Alright. Rock Throw has terrible accuracy in this game. Oh god. You aren't supposed to take my nicknames literally. Paper isn't actually made out of paper. Poor Growlithe. It's cause Execute has no grass moves. The only one that learns naturally is Solar Beam at level 42. Even as a mighty Charizard, Knife is still stuck with Ember, so it takes a couple. I use Cleaver as it's pretty specially bulky, but good lord Cleaver, and Razor the Vileplume Walls Blastoise. When I said tougher, it was relative to the other Rocket Grunts. Big Boss Grunt finally discovers Stab, but it was for Nidoqueen, so Scythe Jr. sweeps. God damn, Coco is pathetic. But Sabrina is actually capable of taking a few heads if not careful, because she's the lucky gym leader that gets the best type in the game, so she doesn't need to think, just Psychic. Alright, that's a bit much, even for her. Kadabra lands a crit turn 1, bringing Paper low. Well, Kadabra has paper thin defenses, so a single Earthquake gets the one shot. No crit needed. Please just go to jail. Paper can't stay in any longer, so switch into Spear on the double slap. Sabrina. I mean, think a little. This was into a rock type, coming from a Pokemon that has no attack. Unfortunately, a Drill Peck doesn't get the one shot, so Mr. Mime can double its defenses with Barrier, but 2 times 0 is still 0. Next is Venomoth. This one's weak to Drill Peck, so one shot. That was overkill. And lastly is Alakazam, but she's no Scythe. She still has the potential to one-shot any of my frailer Pokemon, but that's why we call our man Blender, as she uses a Psywave instead, which is one of the most pathetic moves in the game. If you didn't know, it does a fixed amount of damage, between 50% higher than the user's level and 50% lower, so in this case it'll do anywhere between 60 to 20 points of damage. Okay, I guess maybe it's not so pathetic if you just land the highest roll each time. But also Snorlax is a bulky boy, so even when he doesn't get the one shot, he can still tank the next Psybeam, being able to finish Alakazam off. Honestly, this is all he really needed to do. It's sad that she was able to bring him that low in the first place. And Sabrina will probably be our hardest battle until late into the Elite Four. Cleave is able to surf through both Blaine and Giovanni. Our rivals' levels are now starting to get pretty high, but we've got a brand new tool in the shed that makes him a lot easier. Chainsaw the Magneton is the Pokemon that deserves the TM for Thunderbolt. He doesn't have a Steel typing yet, making him less defensive, but has a massive special attack of 120, the highest for a non-legendary electric Pokemon. And this means that he can electrocute both Sponge's Pidgeot and Blastoise. Icicle the Lapras can take care of the rest. And with not a single trainer stopping us through Victory Road, all that's left is the Pokemon League. As I said earlier, while Lorelei is an Ice-type Elite Four member, she mainly acts as a Water-type specialist anyway, and we just got the perfect Pokemon for Water types. Dugong goes down to a single Thunderbolt from Chainsaw. Cloyster's even frailer than Dugong, so Thunderbolt. You know, I always assume Slowbro is bulkier than he really is. And finally, she sends out her one Pokemon that's not weak to Electric, but she opts to use a Body Slam coming off a pitiful attack stat, and then Double Slap. So Blender crushes her under his sheer body weight. That wasn't even super effective. I forgot that Snorlax isn't especially bulky as he usually is, so Blender takes a lot from Hydro Pump, and Body Slam does just under half. But Paralyzes. Bring Chainsaw back out on the Blizzard, but like I mentioned before, special doubles his defense in this game, so we tank. Chainsaw electrocutes Lapras. Bruno is Bruno. Oh, you again. Psychic one-shots Onyx. Psychic one-shots Hitmonchan. Psychic one-shots Hitmonlee. Psychic one-shots Onyx. And Psychic one-shots the Ace Machamp. Agatha may be a spooky ghost-type specialist, but what's scarier than a We can enlist the services of Scythe Jr. one last time before he moves on to become a Minecraft YouTuber. Psychic, 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 and Psychic. Please go to jail. And lastly is Birdkeeper Lance. Gyarados goes down to a 4 times effective Thunderbolt coming from Chainsaw. With Dragonair out, we can bring out the Star Icicle on the Dragon Rage, which does a fixed 40 points of damage, which is basically nothing at this stage in the game. Ice Beam. Another Dragonair, another Ice Beam. Aerodactyl, despite being fast and having a type advantage, learns no rock moves in this game. Ice Beam. And finally is the Ace Dragonite, who could kill with a crit Hyper Beam, but goes for a weaker Slam instead. A 4 times effective Ice Beam brings Dragonite down, getting us through the final Elite Four member. Close to the end, but we still have yet to stab a Sponge. Sponge leads with Pidgeot and I send out Chainsaw. Thunderbolt. With Scythe coming back for his revenge, we bring in Blender on the recover, without him having taken any damage. While we tank a Psychic and a Stab Double Edge puts the Grim Reaper down. Next is Rhydon, who's got one of the saddest movesets ever seen on the champion team. Bring an Icicle and Surf. Then it's Arcanine, whose only stab move is Ember. Surf. Well, 2 I guess. What did I say about Rhydon? Double that sentiment for Exeggutor. God, that is depressing. Who made this team? Ice Beam. And finally, the Ace Blastoise. Well, Icicle tanks pretty well, so I try and fish for a freeze, but to no avail. So I switch into Spear. The one turn I decided to use Blizzard. Spear being our first and only death. But that gives us a free switch into Chainsaw, and we end the lead the way we started it. By taking a bath with a toaster. Well, I guess being stuck with stab moves isn't too bad when the enemy trainers don't even get mediocre ones. Man, I miss when the games actually used to be hard. Well, I don't really have much nostalgia for the Gen 1 games, but one point in their favor is that, man, they're fast. This challenge might be harder for the Johto games, where the overall trainers are worse, but at least have real movesets. Surprisingly, the problem of Pokemon not getting basic stab persists through them as well, with the overall average Pokemon being even weaker. So it could make for an interesting continuation. If you enjoyed the video, please consider liking and subscribing, and please look forward to more videos in the future.